It's your boy, Trading with Trav, and you are now tuned into a new episode of To the Moon. Here on To the Moon, we're going to deal with an array of financial topics. We're going to deal with the stock market, with the real estate market, Forex, and a lot of different investment opportunities. For today's episode, we're going to deal with generational wealth. I know you heard the phrase before, but has there ever been a real roadmap to get there? Well, today I brought along with me some of my friends. I have Miss Brittany Blackman, who is the real estate guru, and we also have Mr. Jamal Washington, who is our banking expert. So without further ado, we'll get right into it. So, Brittany,
Yes, sir.
with the real estate market, how can people maybe one obtain generational wealth, but then kind of make an action plan towards it to kind of get there?
Well, for them to obtain generational wealth would be to start it if you're the first person in your family, because generational wealth is something that's passed down. We all know that. So if your parent owns their house, then you would be talking to them, hey, mom or dad, how close are we to paying off that mortgage? Is the mortgage actually paid off? How much do you know about your parents' finances? Do you show a level of responsibility where they're going to be willing to give it to you so that then it's going in that generation? And then when mom or dad does give it to you, are you going to keep it up to be able to pass it on to your child? That's one way to look at it. If your family doesn't own anything and you're the first person in the family, you're a first time homeowner, you're going to be the leader, you're going to lead the pack, the pioneer of the family. Then you start by obtaining as much real estate as you can. Start with your first property. My mom used to always say realty is residual income. So that's something that's going to pay you 10 times fold. Right. So much so we think, I paid off this mortgage, now I'm going to go ahead and get a bigger house, versus saying, you know what, I got that house, let me go ahead and get another one and make that rental income, and get another one and make that rental income. And then when all these houses are making me money, I'll then elevate and get that bigger house.
Right. See, one thing that you said that kind of stood out to me is that it's almost a mindset shift, right? You kind of have to look at it from the standpoint of us instead of me.
Absolutely.
With the real estate.
With life.
With life. Yeah, with life. With life. With anything.
As a culture, we need to more so move in regards to our tribe. They talk about African tribes and how it takes a village to raise a family, even in the Bible, right? We need to be raising our village. If you're not teaching your siblings, your aunts, your uncles, your grandparents, and really anybody in your community that's willing to listen to you, what to do, then you're sliding them.
Right. No, that's definitely a fact. And in the banking, Jamal, I wonder, is it a similar mindset, or would you say that that's something that you focus on individually when we're speaking of generational wealth? I know.
I mean, you say generational again, like you said, it's about us and not just me.
Right.
So you got to think about your legacy. What are you leaving behind?
Right.
A lot of us, and that's just culture now, we in that YOLO. You only live once, and we live for today.
Right.
But you got to think about tomorrow, what's going on down the line.
Right.
So you always have to think about building for my seed, not just having them in the Jordans, but that's going to be no good in 3 months. But having them where they own stock in Jordan. That's the bigger portion. But you ain't got to worry about having 20 student loans you got to pay back, because look, daddy made enough money where you're going to be good. I put up enough money to the side where you're going to be good.
Right.
So we have to change our mindsets a lot.
Right.
We have like generational wealth, that legacy part, that we got to think about us, think about the village.
Right.
Sometimes you have to collaborate.
Right.
I may not know everything here, but you may know it. Let's work together so we can build together.
Right.
That's what we have to get to, especially a lot in this city where we don't really collaborate and build.
Right.
That's what I love about this podcast, because it's about collaborating and building.
Right.
I'm not a realtor, so I can't answer that. I've worked with mortgages and stuff like that, but I don't know what realtors do. I come to them later on, So, but hearing that information, it helps. And somebody out here that's looking for a realtor, now they got a realtor right now.
Right.
Instead of looking at somebody that's trying to take advantage of them, ain't trying to help them. She already talking about building legacy.
Right.
I'm doing a commercial right here, but that's all good.
Thank you.
But it's real though. It's real. You need somebody that's going to be up there trying to build for you and for your seed. So that's the important thing. It's about that collaboration.
You said something there that I kind of want to touch on. just with the stock piece and owning, you know, shares of Jordan or Nike, as opposed to like having 10, you know, 10 to 12 pairs. With and tying it into the generational wealth, when you own those shares of those companies, they don't expire. So, you know, that's one way that you could create that generational wealth, where you're passing something down. As opposed to like when you die, all the funds die, or, you know, all of the access to opportunity dies. Another thing with the stock market that a lot of people kind of maybe bypass sometimes is Roth 401ks. With those, you know, you're able to create an opportunity where, specifically with the Roth, you're taking on, you know, that tax burden, so that when you pass those funds on, who's ever getting them, they're able to just run without, you know, worrying about a tax penalty. And if you have children, especially teenagers, right, you could start a Roth IRA for roughly $5,000 if they're around 14, and by the time they're able to take those funds out, that's over $1 million. So, you know, again, that's something that you're literally changing the trajectory of like your bloodline, of, you know, everybody affiliated, you know, with your name and then your family. So that's one of the things that I love about the stock market is, you know, it's not a gamble. You know, if you do that step, Roth 401k, 40 years, you will be a millionaire. Like, we don't have to guess about it. It's been proven for years and years and years and years. And those are things that maybe our community doesn't necessarily know, but again, that's why we're here today. So I want to ask you guys something else concerning generational wealth. And I guess maybe we can get a little bit more personal, because, you know, we're introducing ourselves to the public. So just personally, what steps have you all taken to help maybe kind of create generational wealth? Or if you're already a part of generational wealth, what kind of things are you personally doing to kind of like continue to push that narrative on for like your individual families?
You go ahead. you be going good. I like that. I'm just sitting back listening. Get my popcorn ready.
It's hilarious. Right, I like to talk a lot, as my husband says. You know, for me, one, I am a product of generational wealth. Let's be clear. I want to touch base on something you said that is, we have to educate, right?
For sure.
I don't know how many people that are watching this even know what a Roth 401k is, and or how they can obtain one.
Yeah.
So I think that someone needs to explain how that can be done, because I'm sure a lot of people are saying, if it only takes $5,000 and my child's going to be a millionaire, I could do that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So the easiest way to be able to accomplish that is just to get a financial advisor. And you can get a financial advisor from really any of the popular companies. Fidelity has a great team. TD Ameritrade has a great team. So that's really where you want to start, as opposed to just kind of doing it by yourself. I always recommend to get with a professional. That way you can get guidance, you can get, you can get education. That's going to be a part of what you are hiring that person to do, to educate you on things that you can do for yourself. So that's where I was starting. So if you've never heard the phrase 401k, IRA, and all of that is just brand new verbiage to you, you want to start with seeking out a financial professional. So getting yourself a financial advisor is going to be key in you accomplishing those goals. Which is another piece. Thank you for that segue, because, we were speaking before the show, the pre-show, about just how the banking system isn't necessarily always designed for everyone to win. We'll say that. And one of the things that they kind of maybe block off is financial advisors. So if you don't make of a certain income, they typically don't promote that to you. And I just want to be one of the first people to tell you, you don't have to have 10,000 or 5,000 or whatever in your account. You can get a financial advisor starting with nothing. That's the point, for them to advise you on your finances. So if your bank doesn't offer that financial service, definitely seek out one of the professionals from the companies that I just named, and we will leave the links for those companies in the comments, and so that you can start your own individual journey. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'll say with the banks, with that is you're gonna have to bring that up to them. Because if you don't make this much, if you ain't got this much money in your account, they're not going to suggest it to you. Because most of the banks going to be going off of cues, because most of them don't have a personal relationship with you. They really don't know you, because we don't build those relationships. Right. That's another thing we have to do. Right. Is build relationships with the bank and whoever handling our money, because that's the most personal thing we have. Right. You want to know who's going to be touching your money, who you can come to when you got a problem. Right. But they're not going to offer it to you. So you got to bring it up to them.
Right.
And because unless you got like $75,000, $100,000 in your bank account, they're not gonna mention it to you.
Yeah.
Unless it's a big promotion they got going on where they get some commission.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
the majority of people you see at the bank, the banker, the call center person, those are the highest turnaround in the bank. Mm-hmm. They have the most turnover in the bank. So most of them are fresh out of training, maybe a year out, but they still don't know everything.
Right.
So if you did your own research, you might know more than them. To be honest,
yeah.
Sure. If you want a financial advisor from your own bank, you're gonna have to bring it up to them.
All right, so thank you, Jamal. That was definitely some good nuggets that you were sharing. So taking it back to, again, generational wealth and the real estate market, I want to ask, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, right, what do you feel that the housing market right now is primed for someone to like get in, or what would you say your, just your professional advice would be in terms of timing when to make a move to like make that first purchase, or maybe wait a little while? So what would you say about that?
I would say that it really depends on your mindset. I don't think there's a certain age. Well, obviously you have to be an adult, let's be clear. Right? You got to be an adult. So kids, if you're watching, no, you can't buy a house. But if you can financially afford a home and you're paying rent, and you've paid rent, I'd say, for more than 2 years consistently, then absolutely you could buy a house. Because what you're paying for rent could be going towards what you own. I hope that I am financially stable enough where I can just put houses in my kids' name and they're already walking through the door, with it. But if I can't do that, I bought my first house at 19, right? My mom's like, absolutely, let's go, buy your first house and make it a rental property. Get a duplex so you're getting, money on it, because she was all about that, right? And that's why I flipped it back to you on the education piece. Yeah. Because one thing about generational wealth is, have you been educated on the right way to invest, on the right way to get money, on having multiple streams of income? And that is generational wealth. So my answer to your question would be, again, if you've been paying rent for 2 or more years and you have a job and you have income that can prove these things, you can meet all the financial institutions' requirements, which is you have taxes for 2 years, you have paycheck stubs, you have, a bank account that's been open with active money in it. No, you don't have to have $1 million. One thing that people always come to me about is like, I'm trying to save all this money. And I'm like, why? Because at this point in time, interest rates are at record lows. WIDA is paying down payments. Everybody's getting financed. So why shouldn't you jump in? If you are financially responsible. No, I don't say you jump in 3 years your house is in foreclosure because you don't know how to consistently pay rent. When I say this, I mean it. Have you paid your rent on time for 2 years? Do you not play about those type of things? Then yes, you are ready.
Right, because those things absolutely matter. A lot of times we kind of just discount ownership versus renting. We all got friends that maybe been in position, or friends or family for that matter, that may be renting for like X amount of years and never considered like ownership. What would you say are one of the benefits of actually being an owner versus being a renter?
In my opinion, owning is the only way you should go. Right. Sure. You start out renting because you need to learn how to pay rent. You should be doing that as a child. Right. And I'm not saying, let me take that back. I'm sorry, not as a child, because there are people that are adults that are feasible adults that have been renting for a long time. Right. But I think that you weren't educated properly. Right. Because the smartest thing you could have done for yourself was to start owning as soon as possible. Yeah. If you, let's say you buy your first house at 20. Yeah. Let's say you don't even do it at 19. And you get a normal mortgage and you pay it for 30 years, you own that house at 50. Yeah. Okay? Free and clear. That's all you. Now, if you're smart and you have a realtor like me, if y'all looking for a house, come see me. If you're smart and you have a realtor like me, at closing, I always explain to my customers, pay extra. Throw as much at this as you can. If you pay, and this is the estimate, don't I don't have pen and paper and a calculator in front of me, okay, you guys? So don't hold me to the numbers, okay? But let's just imaginarily say you pay an extra $300 a month on your mortgage. And people are probably like, oh my gosh, $300, that's ridiculous. We spend $300 on fast food. Let's just be clear, okay? Let's say you spend $300 a month, or vacations, or tennis shoes. We was talking about Jordans, you know, and I'm all for shopping. I'm a shopaholic, let's be clear. When you have it to spend, you know, put the money up, and then if you got something to play with, I'm saying put your money in stocks and then buy the Jordan so your stock goes up. That's how I, look at it. I'm saying you got to win. You have to play hard to enjoy hard, right? So I'm not saying take it away, but if you can put $300 towards your mortgage within, I'd say, 14 years, you'd flip the principal and interest. And then now that extra 300 is going towards principal. And now you're going to pay that house off in 26 years versus 30. So now you bought this house and you're free and clear at 46, right? So then when you say you want to retire at 50, you can really do that. Because guess what? I have X amount of equity. I can take this out. I can do this and that. I can do what I want to do. Right? So I absolutely think that you should start owning as early as possible.
You mentioned there's a lot of nuggets in there, so I hope y'all wrote some of that down. But you did mention really another piece that I want Jamal to kind of just expand on, which is budgeting, right? Like how important is budgeting to getting you to that path. I know that we already kind of talked about generational wealth being something that you're thinking to us or holistically, but how important is budgeting, you know what I mean, to even be able to begin those first steps?
Because if you ain't got your budget in order,
right,
you don't know where your money is going or coming, and so you'll be in trouble. And the thing about it is, when you get that mortgage, the bank only looking at numbers.
Yeah, for sure.
They ain't care about your budget.
For sure.
They gonna know if your income can show it, if your credit's show it. And this money, they don't care if you could keep the house,
right?
As long as I close the deal. You're not prepared for sustainability of that home.
Yeah,
they help you get that home. So if you're not budgeting, you won't be able to sustain that home.
Right.
Whether if something may happen, like I was watching the news, some lady had bought a house, didn't do a home inspection, which is crazy. Yeah. Found out it had a septic tank that she didn't know about.
Wow.
That was messed up.
Wow.
And now she had to come out the pocket for all that money for that.
Yeah.
But if you was budgeting for everything, you'll be all right because you'll be prepared for that.
Right.
You'll be prepared knowing how much money you have to go here, to go there.
Right.
What I started doing when I first started budgeting, I had to I wrote down what I spent money on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did that for a month. And I looked and said, man,
I
spent a lot of money on food.
Yeah. I would say like for me, just not to cut you off, but for me, I did something similar and realized I spend like $300 a month on fast food.
Mm-hmm.
Easy. Like so yeah, I mean, but doing those things, it like just writing down exactly where my money is going, it allowed me to kind of realize, hey, I actually do got a little bit more than I thought I had. And so that, allows you to kind of create ways to invest, like financial freedom, which that's ultimately our goal, right? And, finding, okay, if I'm doing 300 at, fast food a month, I could easily maybe take 100 off of that and put that in the stocks, right?
And they say Habakkuk 2 and 2 is write the vision, make it plain. Write the budget, make it plain.
Write the budget.
Down.
I like that. I like that.
Write the budget, make it plain. Write down what it is you got.
Right.
What you got coming in,
and what's going out.
Yeah, because if you don't know what's happening,
right,
you're gonna be in trouble. We ain't like the government. We just print money out when we need it.
Right. That's a fact. That's a fact.
The bill is due. The bill is due.
Yeah. And like you say, the bank's not caring about what's coming and going. I think too, Brittany also touched on a piece that I just wanted to follow up on from the stock perspective, where it doesn't really require you to have a whole lot of money to get in, right? Mm-hmm. Like I talk to and work with a lot of people who kind of just assume that you have to have thousands of dollars to invest into the stock market or even hundreds of dollars. I started one account with $16 on Robinhood. That account is now well over $1,000. And that's within like a year's time. Saying that to say that it doesn't like you can literally start with $5 if that's all you have, $10 if that's all you have. A lot of these platforms, such as a Robinhood or a Webull, they allow for you to use fractional shares. So, and the power of that is if, let's just say, Amazon or Facebook costs maybe hundreds of thousands, and Amazon case thousands of dollars for you to get one share, right? I don't have $2,000 for one share. but I do got $5. I do have $10. By doing my budget, I now see I got an extra $100 a month. And that's how you can begin to build it up over time. It's not a get rich quick scheme. Any of these options, real estate, the stock market, it's not something that maybe you're going to wake up and be rich tomorrow, right? But again, these are the tools that you're going to need to be able to build towards that path, to have financial freedom, to be able to create generational wealth, for not just for yourself, but for everyone involved. So definitely just wanted to kind of highlight the fact that your starting point doesn't have to be like as grand as maybe you thought it needed to be. Again, you're starting with just what you have, and build to where you want to go. So my popular thing I always say is only invest what you can lose, right? Because the stock market can be a little unforgiving, you know what I mean? So you want to stick to a disciplined strategy to where you're building safely over time, as opposed to just trying to, get in there and be a millionaire overnight. So do you see that similarly with real estate, where like people looking to kind of be a millionaire tomorrow?
Not that they're trying, because like real estate, you're not going to be a millionaire tomorrow. I don't think anyone thinks that. I hope they don't. I haven't come across that yet. But what I do come across is people thinking maybe they're going to, let's say they're pre-approved for $300,000. Well, I'm going to get a $200,000 house and I can have $100,000. No. Yeah. They're not putting any cash in your hands. Right. That's a common misconception. Or people think that they're going to get to pull their equity out right away. Yeah. No. Yeah. You have to pay 20% on that loan before you're ever touching any equity. Right. So that's approximately 2 years of payments. Right. So that's why I say pay extra, and then you could get there a little sooner.
And even to touch on that really quick, so the equity and pulling it out, those definite things. But how would you maybe kind of relate that to generational wealth? If the goal is generational wealth, would you kind of maybe say people should stay away from taking out those type of loans early in that process, or is that something that maybe they should do a little later once they built up a little bit more?
Well, I don't think that that's an easily answered question, because it would depend on the scenario. If you're taking out home equity to then go buy another property to add to your generational wealth, I say absolutely do it. Right. If you're taking out the equity to go on vacation and buy wigs and do crazy stuff, no, I'm going to say absolutely not. Right, so again, it's your mindset. Everything, and that's what we need to know from generational wealth. These things are set up by the bank to watch you fail. Okay? Yeah. They sound so simple, but we can't do the right things, right, unfortunately, as a human race. Right. Okay? So I think a home equity loan is an amazing thing. I think like he's talking about, these financial gains that have been given because of the situation we've been put in because of the pandemic has allowed for people to have a lot of wiggle room, within their budget, right? We're getting stimuluses, you're getting your tax money early for those, the kid credit, they're definitely stimulating the economy. Right. So I'm all for you jumping in and, striking while the iron is hot, right, and doing what you can do best, but make sure that when you're doing that, right, you're doing what's best for your family. Right. Because so much so, that's not what's occurring. Right. Okay? Right. So, I don't suggest that you take out this money and then you're like, well, I have 2 mortgages on the house and I have nothing to show for it. That's crazy. Yeah. You take 2 mortgages out so that you can soon flip that and the other mortgage is gone. Right. Take it out for something that makes sense. If it's an emergency, right, someone's sick or you need this money for something, absolutely. Right. That in itself is why you have these things, so you can protect your family. Right. That's generational wealth as well. Right. You want to have these assets so that you can be able to pull at them when you're needed to, right? So that is an important thing as well. It depends on what you're doing is what I'd say.
I like that, because you have to always remember whatever kind of strategy or path you're going down, you have to have a plan, because the bank has a plan for you.
Let me tell you that they explain everything to you at the closing table. Yeah. You can never say you were not told all these things. Right. You may not have been listening because you were happy. Right. You know what I mean? You're just signing your life away. You don't even have to read it. I'm not going to ever say again after becoming a realtor that you weren't explained, because I've closed with a number of closers, and they explain everything. Yeah. They tell you when your payments are due. Yeah. They tell you how to send your payment in if you don't have a payment coupon book. Like, nope, your payment's still due on this day. Here's the little ones you cut out. Send it in old school. Right. They give you the number. They give you a sheet of exactly how many payments you're making and the day your payments are going to end. Yeah. So when in doubt, if you had a question about anything, go back to your closing documents because it's there. Right. Okay? So the bank has a plan, so much so that you sign off. If I don't pay on this, it can come and take it. That's how foreclosure is about. Yeah. You have to sign for them to foreclose on your house, okay? Yeah. So you can't say that you don't know these things. Right. That's why I keep pushing back to education, because it's all about educating yourself. Listening to what they're saying to you. Sure. Don't skip the payment. Sure. Make the payments. Pay extra on your payments. Because guess what's going to happen? I'm sure you can chime in on this. The bank's going to start calling you. Yeah, you know what? You upside down on your loan, and not in a bad way, in a good way. Right. Let me see what I can do for you today. Now they want to see you walking through the door. We're different language, right?
Mm-hmm. And then home equity, when we talk about generational wealth, the tax code was changed about 3 years ago. Before, when you had home equity, you could write it off in your taxes because the interest, like you always write off your mortgage interest on there. So you had home equity before, even if you was taking out for a college education, you was taking out for this, you was able to write off your taxes. Now they changed the tax code where for home equity, if you're not using it to repair your home, you can't write it off. Wow. So
that's a good nugget.
So if you have people that had, let's say they had homes for 30 years, but different races. That's what I'm supposed to say it like that. Where they was able to build that generational wealth up. Right. So not only was they able to take out the money, right? Let's say I'm gonna put little Johnny through school, right? And I'm gonna start a little business for little Susie. Right. Not only am I paying for that through the equity of my home, I was able to get that we were blocked from actually obtaining. They getting tax breaks for doing that as well. Right. Right. So they getting money on top of money. Money on top of money. So it helped to build that gap. And now that we are getting the mindset to be able to do those things. We ain't gonna have those same tax breaks, right. So we have to be, we have to know about the tax laws too to protect us, because IRS is the biggest gang in the world. They're the biggest gang in the world. Definitely. They don't play.
Yes, they don't play. No,
if they want your money, they come in your account.
And they want it now.
They come in your account and
they want it now.
They're gonna tell you they coming to get it, and then they gonna go.
No, they're not even gonna take it. They're gonna take it. They're gonna take it and send you a letter and say, "I took it. It was me. Hi."
And I'm charging you for taking it.
Right. Not only that.
Interest per day. Right. Interest per day.
No,
Oh, it's your payday.
It's mine too.
It's mine, right? It's our payday.
Matter of fact, that's my whole check.
Yeah,
they do Debo on you. They go Debo for real.
And to get out of that whole situation that could be a whole battle in itself. Yeah, just dealing with the IRS and trying to get back in good standing and whatnot. Yeah, so that's a task in itself. Another thing that I definitely wanted us to maybe chime in, get some feedback on with generational wealth, especially, is life insurance policies, right? Life insurance is kind of like one of the things that just walks right underneath a lot of people's noses. A lot of times, especially in certain communities, life insurance is kind of like taboo because, you kind of, thinking about people moving on and things of that nature. But especially talking about the taxes, that's another easy way to transfer a large lump sum of funds without taxing the people that's going to be receiving them. You could start off with a life insurance plan, roughly around $6,000. That's $1 million, over time when somebody passes on. So, again, that's two ways that you could, have $1 million from Roth IRAs or Roth 401ks that we spoke about earlier, life insurance plans, and then continuing that on with the real estate.
Wait, I just want to chime in. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, jump in there.
One thing I want to talk to people about, and it's not on real estate, sorry you guys, but just on life insurance and having it. Yeah. It's also very important, and we talk about generational wealth, to have life insurance for your children. Yeah, and I'm not just talking about having life insurance for your children in the event that something happens, because I'm not a parent that ever plans on burying my child, my children before me. I don't foresee that. I don't talk about negative things. But let's talk about how much money your child would have if you start a life insurance plan for them. I have life insurance plans for my children. And because they're so young, their whole lives, So then when they're 20, they can take the money out that mom's been paying and maybe start that business or do something else. So that is another way that you can pass generational wealth. And it's easy to get in on it. Something like $13 a month. Why not pay that?
Yeah, I mean, like in that example, I said 6,000, but I mean, you're talking about breaking that into a 12 month payment.
Yeah.
So it's not like you coming out of pocket right away.
No.
And again, that's another way that you have a lifetime of wealth, or maybe not you, right?
But you're blessing your children.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're gonna at that age they're gonna go and get their own life insurance policy. Let's be clear. Most of the time, you're not even gonna use that policy that you've gotten for them as a kid. But if you're smart and you've given it to them, now they have something to pull at. If it is their college. When I went to college, I was blessed enough that my mom paid for my college. I don't have student loan debt. Well, I do. I'm going to take that back. And it was for me going back for my second degree. And me being an adult and doing it, I didn't have cash to just pay for it like that, right? But my first degree, my mom paid for it in cash. No problem. There you go. She used to write checks every semester. Take your check up there, see what's going on. That would even give me a discount because we was paying in cash, right? So it is amazing. I graduated from Mount Mary, and that's a private college. So that's even more expensive than going to a UW school, right? So I just say that to say you can build generational wealth for your children just simply by paying $13 a month on a life insurance plan for them.
Right. Right. Absolutely. That's one of the key pieces that if you took away nothing is that take away the fact that the things that we're talking about doesn't not require you to have hundreds, thousands, hundreds of $1,000s. These are things that you can actionably do as soon as the episode ends. Wait until the episode ends, and then reach out to to a financial advisor, or even insurances is even maybe a little easier and more accessible. Right, and you can do it right online from the convenience of your home. So don't let that information go over your head with being able to actually do this, right? And then so really quick, just tying in life insurance just from a banking standpoint, because I know that you had the opportunity to work with a lot of different individuals. Would you say, just in your professional experience, that you work with a lot of people who inherited their funds, or would you say it's more people that actually went out and had to earn it?
Most people I worked with, because I chose to work in the community.
Yeah.
After a while, going from back in the back end of things.
Mm-hmm.
Most people I worked with they went out and earned it.
Mm-hmm.
They had to get it. You had some people that would inherited things, but most of the people look just like you and me.
Yeah.
Like Brittany,
Yeah.
They had to go out and get it.
Yeah.
Because there's always been barriers for us.
How much easier, how more successful do you think those individuals would have been had they had that sort of starting point?
They would have been much more successful because think about Brittany's case. You don't have to worry about student loans.
I was like, look at me. I'm sorry, I don't want to just make myself an outlier, but I'm usually the outlier. Me and Travis know each other from where we work, and I've always been an outlier. Mm-hmm. And people are always like, how are you so... Because this is how I was raised. I grew up in Brookfield. I was actually that black girl that was in the suburbs. That's exactly how I grew up. And people are like, how are you so successful? My sister is extremely successful as well. She's a realtor, Brianna Bowman. If you don't get me, get Brianna. Okay? Us too. We're a team. Okay? So, no, she is extremely successful as well. And one thing about us is that we have it in our DNA. This is something that our mom... And that's generational wealth. That's why I keep talking about education, because it's not just about what you can buy in real estate or put money in financing or stocks. You have to start it with something that is free, and that is educating your kids. My mom gave us so much game on how to deal with business, how to deal with people, how to talk professionally, how to follow up, right? Because one thing about real estate, it's constant follow-up. You have to stay on people to make sure they're getting everything done. You got to hit your deadlines. It's all about follow-up, right? So if you want to be successful and you want your children to be successful, you have to start that at home. You have to teach those things at home. And I absolutely believe there's a heck of a difference when your parents start you that way. And then if I take outside the education, yes, I was blessed that my parents were extremely fortunate. They still are, right? I'm blessed, and I say that. When I see the cameraman, he said, how you doing? I said, I'm blessed. And so, I always tell people I'm so blessed all the time. I just can't say that people had the experiences that I had, though, right? Because I went to school in the suburbs. So I've always been in a situation where I'm the only black person in the room. Some black people have never had to deal with that. I don't get uncomfortable when I'm the only black person in the room. I don't care. I don't see myself being any different from them because that's how I was raised. Because that's the culture that my mom pushed me into. Sometimes we don't expose our kids to that. So when they get into that type of environment, they don't know how to excel. They recoil back into themselves, and then they can't stand out. And that's in jobs and other places. I think even you too, your dad is very professional, and that's why you've always led leadership positions. It's a big difference in how your parents raise you and how you portray yourself in work, in life, how you handle things will be much differently. Like, you know about stocks already, right? Because your dad is in real estate. And that is in itself still a form of investing. You've always been in the real estate field, investment field, in some type of field. You've been in banking, what you said, forever. No, we talking about you being in banking forever. So it's second nature to, it's ingrained in us. And that's why we can stand out above the rest. I absolutely believe that, and what were we saying? Other races give their kids much more.
Yeah, I would definitely say, just piggybacking off of that, we talking generational wealth, and we kind of took it from the finance standpoint, but mindset and education is, you don't have to have a dollar, you know what I mean, to want to have a will to learn. And those are like, that's the most basic, right? So before we kind of even deal with like stock market, real estate, and banking, like you kind of have to, deal with yourself and just mindset and making a conscious, disciplined decision to say, I'm going to do it differently, right? If maybe, you're the pioneer of the family and you are the first one that'll be making these steps and creating these opportunities for, everyone else in your family, it's a conscious decision, right? That you're making, that, you want to do things differently, right? And you want to see things differently for your family. And if you've never heard, about any of this stuff, that's why we're here. We want to be able to be an information source for you to be able to ask questions about stocks or ask questions about real estate, Forex, or whatever you're into. We have somebody that can, provide some information, some professional advice about, what you're dealing with or what you're wanting to get into. So definitely keep that in mind. Moving into...
I got one point.
Oh, go ahead.
Definitely. Mindset.
Go ahead.
Because I realized I had limitations in my thinking.
That's
and
good.
what happens when people have limitations in they thinking, they put those limitations upon you.
That's very true.
And all of a sudden you limit yourself. Like, I can't attain this. Like, people, like she saw about the person said, I can't get a house. I ain't got $100,000. You putting limits on yourself.
Right.
But then we say we believe in a limitless God that he can do anything. So
absolutely, preach.
If he's limitless, that means we got to take off the limits off our mind. Right. So I had to start reprogramming my mind. Then you have people that come about, and we don't realize that we put deposits in people's minds, putting limits on them.
Right.
Like, you can't do that.
Right.
And a lot of times that come from our parents.
Right.
They come from our siblings. But we talk about that legacy thing. It's not it's intangibles too.
Right.
Taking the limits off your child's mind.
Absolutely.
Take the limits off
That's
that
what
you
I was
can
saying.
achieve.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. And her saying when she said I can go into a room, I know how to handle in a room, I know what to say, I know how to talk to people.
Right.
That ain't money.
Right.
That's being told something. That's being taught something.
Right.
So we can instill something into you that takes those limits off of your mind, that you can achieve this.
Right.
You may not be able to have $1 million tomorrow.
Right.
But you might be that millionaire. You'll get there.
Yeah.
It's taking those limits off of your mind. And we have to, like, I read the book As a Man Thinketh, it was like 18 pages long, because I had this really reprogram my mind. Yeah. Because I grew up in a situation, a lot of times I've been around places where I was told what I could not be. Right. I was told what my limits are. Right.
And as black men, they always do that. I hate to cut you off, but I feel like that is something they do to black men, where I'm always praising my black men. I'm like, yes, they're kings, because there's so many black men out here. You guys, my husband, there's a lot of black men that are doing amazing things. And the thing is that you guys do limit yourself. There should never be, I always say, like, yeah, I can do that. I'm trying to get there. I'm working towards it, because it's always a work in progress. One thing that I always watch, I actually teach a class, and I always tell my students, is about The Secret. I don't know if you guys have ever watched The Secret. It's on Netflix, so if you have a chance, watch The Secret. It will change your life. And I live by The Secret. One thing that they always say in The Secret is, we could drive, let's say you're driving from here to Mississippi, right? We always do that. My family is from Mississippi, right? Right? You're going straight through that. 12 hours through the night, right? We drive through the night. You can't see no more than 200 feet in front of you, right? We have faith that we're going to make it to Mississippi. We keep going 200 more feet and 200 more until you get there. Now, if you apply that same concept to life, i.e., you want to be a millionaire. I don't care if you have $1 right now. Right. If you're going 200 feet at a time, eventually you're getting to your million. And stop worrying about how you're going to get there. Right. Because it's going to happen. Right. The same way you get to Mississippi. Right. It's happening. Right? On faith. Right. If your faith is high, you can get there.
Yeah, I love it. I really, really, really love that 200 feet at a time. Even like, and even bringing it back just to the stock market, I stress. It's not about being there overnight, but having that mindset, a step at a time, 200 feet at a time. I love that. We're gonna have to do something with that.
And writing it out and saying like,
we got to put that quote on.
Yeah,
you have to manifest though. You have to really be like, this is what I'm doing. Like when me and my sister got into real estate after my mom died, because my mom passed away. And I was like, I can't go back to Spectrum. I can't deal with anybody telling me what to do. That was less than a year ago. That's why I just got into real estate, because I was so good at Spectrum. I'm making enough money. I didn't care. For sure. But I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to deal. I wasn't at the mode to have a supervisor telling me anything. Like you can't tell me nothing, right? So, because I'm not hearing it right now. I'm hearing, because my mom has died. Like I'm stressed, right? Sure. I can't. For sure. And when we got into it, we said, you know what? We're going to just take this field by storm. Yeah. And we're going to just go all into real estate and see what it does. And I started out with no clients, nothing. And it just came from talking to people and doing different stuff. Knowing that I can do this. Right. To say that now, Brianna herself, because she's closing like crazy. She's full-time real estate where I have multiple businesses. And she's over $2 million in sales. And I'm at over $1 million in sales. And we're under 8 months in real estate. Okay, she started 2 months before me. That's amazing. So, we're taking off and we're black. Right? We're young black women. Young black women.
Put some respect on that.
Put some respect on our name, absolutely. And we plan on changing the whole real estate game. We're just getting started, right? Absolutely. So it's like, that was my goal then. Did I think I would be here? Absolutely not.
I think too, the important piece is to like take the action, right? Absolutely. Even with that plan, a lot of that is, actually moving in that direction, and then things can come to you. You know what I mean? Like,
and like you said, walking in faith, because I didn't know. I don't have clients. Every day I post on here begging. Oh my gosh, I hope I get some clients today, right? Because you were a realtor. It's every day is a constant hustle to try to look. My shirt says real estate is my hustle, right? Because I'm constantly hustling to get clients. It's an unknown. Just like stocks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely, just like stocks.
We was talking about the generational wealth. When she spoke about what her mama passed, rest in heaven. Rest in power, But when she talked about that, everything that her mother is depositing to her, you see it manifesting now. And it wasn't the money. Yeah. It was what she put inside of her, that mindset and the drive and the goal, not just she took the limits off of her daughter. Right. So now her daughter can be whatever she wants to be. Right. And we can do that for our children and our children's children. And they can be just like it.
All of us. Because we're all great.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's really what the purpose of the show. We want to be able to make deposits into you so that you can grow financially and achieve your financial goals as well. We would like to extend ourselves to you, and for questions, if you have inquiries about the stock market, real estate, any way that we could be of a service, we are gladly here to help. Again, follow To The Moon on Facebook. That will be To The Moon with 2 exclamation points on Facebook. On Instagram, you can follow us at To The Moon Investments. Collaboration over competition. Be smart, be safe, be dangerous. Till next time.